I like to read books, and I believe knowledge is power. And one book that stood out to me was this book called Social. And chapter 10 of this book really answered a lot of questions I had about life in general, because we go through a lot of ups and we go through a lot of downs in life. And the main message of this book is what I was missing when I had my downs. So this video is about what we could do in times of our down, and in the times that we're happy, what we can do to maintain it. From 1946 to 1989, income doubled for the average American. SWB in this chart stands for social well-being, or overall happiness. So it didn't matter how much money you made, your happiness pretty much stayed the same. So I wanted to know what my girlfriend thought about this.
I feel like that's pretty sad because money won't bring you happiness. This chart kind of explains it. Which I didn't think that would happen. I feel like the more money, the better off you'd be. But according to this chart, that's not what's happening.
So when people think about money, they become more motivated to work more and socialize less. But an interesting thing occurs. When people think about time, the reverse happens. People become motivated to work less and socialize more. Your thoughts on that?
Wow, that makes sense. If you're gonna die tomorrow, I feel like you'd run to see your family, not try to make as much money as you possibly could. That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that, definitely.
Nowadays, in the modern times, we have less and less time to sit with ourselves because we're constantly moving. Day in and day out, we're working hard to stay alive and barely have enough time for what really matters: our friends, family, our loved ones. Because deep down, we're wired for social. Do you know what hedonic adaptation means?
No.
Hedonic adaptation is an evolutionary tool for our brain. When something bad happens to us, we can revert back to our baseline. Our baseline is our normal happiness. Also, when something good happens to us, we revert back to our baseline as well. So to put this in another perspective, the good event here represents you winning the lottery, and the bad event represents being paralyzed from the waist down. No matter what happens, your brain adapts to the situation and eventually ends up at the baseline happiness. So good or bad, your brain will return to normal happiness. I'm going to let Sean Anker, a psychologist, explain our viewpoint on happiness.
In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this: if I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is, it's scientifically broken and backwards for two reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But the real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, Then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than it does at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact,
I think we need to change our viewpoint on happiness. And I believe a better way to achieve happiness is to surround ourselves with people that we love and that we care about and that they care about us. And there are 4 ways to achieve happiness through the social perspective. The first way is to get out there and start volunteering and to give back to the community. The second way is to join some sort of social group. A group that we enjoy going to, maybe because of similar interests and hobbies. The third way is to start entertaining people at our home more often. Getting people together for whatever reason. And the fourth and final option that is optional is to get married to someone that you can spend the rest of your life with. Do you volunteer?
No.
Are you part of any social groups or clubs?
No.
How often do you entertain at your home on a given week?
Like once a week.
What does money mean to you?
Money to me is just a way to get by. I mean, whoever has the most is going to get by the easiest, I think. I think money is very important because with that you get whatever you want, pretty much. But also I think it causes a lot of problem for those that don't have enough or enough to be stress-free.
In 1965, 45% of college freshmen listed being very well off financially as a top life goal. But by 1989, being well off was at the top of the list with 75%. Imagine what the number could be now.
That doesn't shock me at all. I think that's pretty accurate. I myself, I think money is pretty important. So I would say that's one of my main goals is to be financially stable. Because, like everything is just costing more money and the middle class is disappearing. So I think it's just up to us to get ourselves to a nice state where we have enough money so we don't have to worry about it, because then that leads to stress and all these other things. Even though it won't bring us happiness, at least it'll bring us like some sort of relief, I think.
In 1965, helping others and raising a family scored higher. But now it's lower. What do you think about that?
Raising a family scored higher? Wow. Well, yeah, I guess now people are having babies later because their careers take so long. So I think people want to make themselves well off first, give themselves a chance to live before bringing kids into a world where they're not financially stable yet. I think maybe that's why financial stability is like number one goal over families right now.
Now, I'm not saying money is bad. If you're struggling with your food, water, or shelter, any money that helps pay off your basic needs will make you happier. So, for example, if you're around the red line here and you made enough money to get to the $40,000 line, you will increase your happiness, but you will get used to it. The same thing when you jump up from class to class, you will get used to it. But if you're on the poverty line, you're making nothing and you make enough money to support yourself, you will become happy. But money can only help to a certain extent. Would you sell your best friend for $100,000?
No, I wouldn't sell my best friend. They're my best friend. I don't think they're worth $1,000. They're worth a lot more. I don't think any amount of money could replace them. I think they're more important to me than money. I think I'd rather have them than any sort of cash, because cash is not going to bring me happiness, I don't think.
We know that social connection is one of the best predictors of happiness and well-being. And in contrast, increasing wealth is not a very good predictor of happiness and well-being. Nevertheless, over the past 50 years, we have come to value the pursuit of wealth more and more, often at the expense of our social well-being, spending more time at the office and away from family and friends. Now, last month, I received an outrageous offer for a huge sum of money to move to Russia for 4 months for each of the next 2 years to help train neuroscientists. It was the kind of money that an academic only dreams about. And frankly, I became completely obsessed with the idea of going. So obsessed that I couldn't sleep for days on end. But ultimately, I decided not to go. See, my wife and son are the bedrock of my social well-being, and they weren't going to be going. And my time with them can't be replaced by the money that I would make in Russia. My son will only be 7 once, and no amount of money could ever make him 7 again and give me back those moments that I'll now be able to share with him. For those of you with full-grown children, how much money would you spend to have a few more months with them back when they were 7 years old? Now, if I needed to do this to put food on the table, I would go in a heartbeat, no question about it. But we have what we need. We have enough money. Okay? This money would let us buy nicer cars and maybe a bigger house. Okay? But if I went, it would be at the risk of sacrificing my own social well-being and my family's too. These are the real roots of happiness. And even knowing that, even studying the social brain like I do, this was one of the single hardest decisions of my life. Not knowing in our guts the value of social, the real literal value of social, is our greatest kryptonite. And if we want future generations to be smarter, happier, and more productive, we need to be teaching them about their social superpowers from a very young age and helping them train these abilities. You might not be able to explain to your kids why they need to learn algebra, but there is no question that strengthening and understanding these social superpowers will help our children for their entire lives. Thank you.
Do you agree that when we get more social, life improves?
Yeah. I think people influence you.
Why does it make it better?
I think the more people you're around, the more laughs you can share, the more moments you can have with these people.